evening. I am Juan Carlos Molleda, Edwin L. Arts Dean and Professor. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the School of Journalism and Communications 23rd Annual Hall of Achievement Gala. Each year I love celebrating this event because it connects us with our past and our future and with each other. This year, of course, is different from all the rest. From an ongoing global pandemic to civil unrest to catastrophic fires here on the West Coast, we are all working through a time of uncertainty and hardship that none of us could have imagined. Although we are not able to celebrate together in person, please know that we are not alone. I am so grateful that each of us, SOJC alumni, faculty, staff, and students, is part of such a strong network of SOJC docs who support each other no matter where we are or what is happening in our lives. And tonight, we are gathered across the miles to honor the impressive century-long legacy of our school, our Hall of Achievement inductees, and our outstanding young alumni, and all of you who are paving the way for the next generation of SOJC students. Founded 23 years ago by our Journalism Advancement Council, the SOJC Hall of Achievement honors many of our most distinguished alumni and faculty. It also serves to connect our best and brightest students with our incredible network of SOJC graduates who now work as top professionals in their fields. Today, the SOJC Hall of Achievement counts 86 alumni and faculty in its membership. Tonight, we have the honor of inducting 4 new members: Neil Everett, Sandra Mcdonough, Tom Wheeler, and Jane Larsen Wildman, and of recognizing this year's winner of the Eric Allen Outstanding Young Alumni Award, Heba Kanso. Also watching with us tonight are recipients of our Hall of Achievement scholarships. Founded in 2001, the HOA Scholarship Fund has allowed many of our students over the years to attend the U of O, focus on their studies, produce great work, and become important members of our network of journalists and communicators. Nearly all of them say they would not have been able to do it without the support of our donors. If you would like to support the next generation of SOJC docs as they prepare to change the world, please consider giving to the HOA Scholarship Fund. Just go to sojc.link/HOA-scholarship-fund to add your support. Any gift of any size will help talented students succeed at the SOJC. Tonight, I also want to recognize the members of our distinguished faculty and staff who are celebrating virtually with us. Each day, you bring wisdom and innovation to our school, preparing our students for not only their careers, but for their lives. You have gone above and beyond this year to pivot to remote learning at a moment's notice and support our students. Faculty have prepared engaging online coursework, and all of you have helped our students cope with the stress of a pandemic. On top of that, many of you are also homeschooling children, caring for loved ones, dealing with the fallout from wildfires, and dealing with the stress from this very challenging year. Your drive for excellence in your research, your teaching, your work, and your care for our students are second to none. Thank you for all you do. Before we begin the awards portion of this celebration, I would like to take a moment to thank all of you who are watching and acknowledge how much this pandemic has affected you. We have yet to fully understand how our lives will be shaped by this year. The coronavirus has tremendously changed the way we conduct our work as journalists, strategic communicators, and media specialists. We had to change the way we tell stories, share information, and engage with our audiences. We have also had to consider how we discuss diversity and address the atrocities committed against marginalized communities. We face many challenges today and have many opportunities for growth. The professions we serve are constantly evolving, and we are dealing with increasing pressure to defend our credibility and the value of a free press. But all of this only reinforces the importance of what we do, giving our students the foundation in ethics, the tools, and the skills to adapt in the face of these changes and to make a real difference. Now more than ever, our nation and our world need strong journalists and communicators. Our students who graduate from the SOJC will continue to produce compelling stories in a range of media, engage in high-level research, and design advertising and public relations campaigns that ethically drive action. We could not prepare them for that future without you. Thanks for your support and engagement. I am confident the SOJC will continue serving as a leader, not just among other schools on campus, but as one of the premier journalism and communication schools in the nation. To kick off the evening, I would like to introduce Associate Professor Troy Elias to introduce a special guest, Hall of Achievement Scholarship recipient Jordan Cirillo, a senior double majoring in advertising and cinema studies.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Troy Elias, and I'm an associate professor in the advertising sequence in the School of Journalism and Communication. Today, I have the privilege of introducing tonight's Hall of Achievement scholarship recipient and student speaker, Jordan Cirillo. Jordan is a senior majoring in advertising and cinema studies, and her minors are creative writing and comic book studies. I first met Jordan in 2018 when she joined our chapter, our UO chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists. Since then, she has gone on to become a director of Allen Hall Advertising, which is a full-service, student-run ad agency based out of the SOJC. Jordan also assists in recruitment events for University of Oregon Housing, especially those involving marginalized groups. Jordan also leads a Bible study for Black identifying students once a week, and she's currently enrolled in my advertising and culture class. As a professor, I am not allowed to tell you that Jordan is one of my favorite students, and so I won't. Please welcome tonight's student speaker, Jordan Cirillo.
Hello, esteemed SOJC faculty, students, and guests celebrating with us today. It is a pleasure to come before you, even if we can't physically be in the same space to celebrate. I'd like to start off by thanking the SOJC for this opportunity and a chance to speak before all of you today. I am honored to be the student speaker for this year's Hall of Achievement Gala. It is a privilege to be the recipient of this scholarship and be able to use the funds that I have received to further my education in the School of Journalism and Communication. It doesn't feel right to give this speech without first acknowledging the climate we are in as a country, given it is these sad events that have prevented us from meeting in person here today. From the start of the coronavirus outbreak to the resparking of the Black Lives Matter movement during a mass pandemic, our country has been in a state of unrest. It may feel strange for me to bring these things up. However, it is hard to deny the fact that these have been major influencers on what my final year will look like here at UO. When I was a freshman, I never imagined the start of my senior year would be Zoom call lectures and remote gatherings, such as these. No, the senior year I envisioned was far from the senior year I was given. But if I've learned anything from this time in my life, is that even if you have a plan, you cannot plan for the unexpected. Anyone who knows me knows I am the type of person who values stability and certainty. I determined what career I wanted when I was a senior in high school. I officially became a double major, double minor in the winter term of my freshman year, and have had the privilege of holding a total of 4 leadership roles during my time here at UO. I'm sure now you wouldn't be surprised to hear I hold paying jobs on top of my academics and extracurriculars. Being involved and being invested had always been my mantra to life. I wholeheartedly believe you give your time, care, and attention to things you believe are important and things that matter. And today I would like to thank the SOJC for awarding me the Hall of Achievement Award because in doing so, you have acknowledged that my life and education matter and are worth investing in. It is the investment in the education of BIPOC and queer students that will help change and challenge the world for the better. To end my speech today, I would like to read y'all one of my favorite short stories titled The Starfish Story. And it goes a little something like this. One day, a man was walking down the beach when he noticed a boy picking something up and gently throwing it back into the ocean. Approaching the boy, he asked, "What are you doing?" The youth replied, "Throwing starfish back into the ocean. The surf is up and the tide is going out. If I don't throw them back, they'll die." "Son," the man said, "don't you realize there are miles and miles of beach and hundreds of starfish? You can't make a difference." After listening politely, the boy bent down, picked up another starfish, and threw it back into the surf. Then, smiling at the man, he said, "I made a difference for that one." The story is about one's ability to make a difference and the reality of a person's ability to change the world. There will be naysayers that, like the old man, that say you can't do what you have set out to achieve, but do it anyway. Never stop doing your part to make an impact on the world, because though you cannot change everyone's life, you never know whose life you'll transform if you just try. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. You are an inspiration to your fellow students and to our faculty, staff, and alumni. I look forward to seeing what you will accomplish with the help of your scholarship at the SOJC and after that, out in the world. Speaking of accomplishing great things in the world, it's time to honor the 2020 Eric Allen Outstanding Young Alumni Award winner. In 2009, our school developed the Eric Allen Outstanding Young Alumni Award to commemorate our alumni under the age of 40 who have demonstrated early success and innovation in their professions. These individuals have built a portfolio of outstanding work and hold the promise of continued distinction and leadership in their future. To introduce this year's Eric Allen Outstanding Young Alum, I would like to welcome Emerita Faculty Rebecca Force.
It is my distinct privilege to introduce you to Heba Kanso, recipient of the 2020 Eric Allen Outstanding Young Alumni Award. This redoubtable young woman graduated from the SOJC in 2009 with a degree in broadcast journalism. Heba graced 3 of my classes while she was here. I remember her as bright, courageous, with a touch of sass. We kept in touch. She secured a summer internship at CBS in New York. The network assigned her to international coverage, and she was as good as they had hoped she would be when they interviewed her for the position. Smart, ethical, fluent in Arabic, a talented videographer and writer. She loved her internship at the foreign desk, writing, "They are so nice, and they give me so much to do." They loved her too, and they hired her. As a broadcast associate, she had a 3 to midnight shift, 50-hour work weeks, and no holidays off. It was a dream job. 2 years later, she was an associate producer for international coverage. And 2 years after that, she was a CBS digital reporter. In 2017, she became a Middle East correspondent stationed in Beirut for Thomson Reuters. She wrote, "I report on rape survivors, migrant rights, domestic workers, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, and so much more. Real stories of how war, laws, culture, and society impact real people." Last year, she transitioned again. She is now covering stories of people in humanitarian crisis as the Director of Communications for UNHCR, the United Nations Refugee Agency in Yemen. This amazing young woman has spent a good deal of her life so far shining light, frequently into the dark corners of human experience, so that we can all see. She's developed that knack of sharing the devastation of thousands by telling the story of one person in distress. On August 4th, the catastrophic explosion on Beirut's waterfront destroyed much of Heba's apartment. She was safe, and she called herself lucky, and immediately started raising for others devastated by the blast. Redoubtable. I told her once that when she made it, we would all say, "Oh yes, we knew Heba. We always knew she was special." And you know, we did. She really cared about the stories that she was doing, and she was always drawn to doing stories about the human condition.
Heba knows how to dive right into situations with courage and bravery. She's pretty fearless. I mean, she will go to Yemen, she will go to Syria to a refugee camp. And those are things that are risky, they're dangerous, and they're heartbreaking.
She has enough empathy to allow herself to see things from other people's eyes and through other people's lens.
She was not interested in changing other people's minds. She was interested in documenting what is. Not trying to twist, not trying to convince, not trying to manipulate, but trying to explain.
The commitment she has to her work was incredible. And I'm always impressed how committed she is. Colleagues from headquarters, from Copenhagen, from Geneva, from the Middle East, whenever they want something from Yemen, they know the minute they call Heba, it's done. And they know it's solid. They know she has rechecked it 1,000 times. And they know they have to exercise the patience for her follow-up and her thoroughness, because she really makes sure and ensures all what is needed and all the requirements are done, the accuracy, the balance, the context, the human side.
Her values are evident in her work, certainly. Her honesty, her pursuit of the truth, her dogged determination to get to the bottom of a story, her heart, her empathy. Those are all qualities that make a terrific reporter. As a person, when you meet Heba, you immediately become her friend. She emanates warmth and generosity.
She's a once in a lifetime human being, and I feel so incredibly fortunate that I've had her as a friend. And I think that she just needs to know how lucky the journalism profession is to have her, her family, her friends, but just how much better the world is because she's in it.
Heba, on behalf of all of us at CBS News, all of your friends and colleagues, especially our departed friends, Ana Rial and Maria Mercader, we are incredibly proud of you and are so thankful for the contributions that you've made to journalism and to have made our world and our nation a better place through your work.
I am so honored to be getting this year's Eric Allen Award. I want to first thank the University of Oregon School of Journalism and Communication and the incredible professors and faculty who supported me not only throughout my time at the U of O, but also in my career. I want to thank Tim Gleason for his continuous support throughout the years, and I also want to recognize Rebecca Force, who is the reason why my career started specifically at CBS News. Rebecca flagged me one very rainy day near Allen Hall and said, "You have to apply to this unpaid internship with CBS News in New York." She was so encouraging and so positive, and of course I followed her advice, and it was actually the best career move I have made. I ended up working at the CBS News Foreign Desk, where I became an overnight associate producer, working midnight to 10 a.m. for several years. I worked on breaking news, including major news events from the tsunami in Japan to the Arab Spring, and I was coordinating with CBS bureaus around the world. It was truly an incredible experience. After the foreign desk, I ended up working for CBSNews.com as a digital journalist, where I would shoot, write, produce, report, and edit my own stories. I was essentially a backpack journalist. And I truly have Rebecca Force and the University of Oregon School of Journalism and Communication to actually thank, because that is where I learned all of those skills. In my capstone class, which was Rebecca's class, we had to produce our own pieces for a weekly newscast. It was the most valuable set of skills I learned in the program, because it truly set me up for an amazing job. And after nearly 8 years with CBS News, I moved on to become the Middle East correspondent for the Thomson Reuters Foundation based in Beirut, Lebanon. As a dual national, both Lebanese and American, I was so excited to live in Lebanon and report on the Middle East and North Africa. I was covering everything from stories of migrants to the refugee crisis, to women's rights, to LGBT issues, and so much more. It was such a privilege to travel around the region and tell stories that are underreported for a major news agency. And for the last year, I've been with the United Nations Refugee Agency in Yemen, where I was managing their communications team and was telling stories of refugees and displaced Yemenis through social media, photography, and video storytelling. I've met so many incredible people who have made such a mark on my education and my career. And I want to dedicate this award in memory of two remarkable women who I originally met at the CBS News Foreign Desk, Anna Real and Maria Mercader. Anna and Maria became my mentors, my cheerleaders, my supporters, and my family. They were such strong women and true champions of real diversity in journalism. They were always there for me, giving me valuable advice, and I am forever grateful to them for having such an impact on my life and my career. So I dedicate this amazing award in their honor and memory. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Rebecca, and congratulations, Heba. You are an incredible role model for our students, and we are excited to watch your career continue to unfold at the highest levels. Now it's time to honor our 2020 Hall of Achievement inductees. I would like to introduce Carolyn Silva Chambers, Distinguished Professor of Advertising, and Advertising Area Director Deborah Morrison.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deb Morrison, Chambers Distinguished Professor of Advertising at the SOJC, and it is my honor, my absolute privilege, to introduce Neil Everett tonight. Wait, you might be wondering, so who is this dude? Well, this dude is Neil Everett back in 1984. Thanks, Stephanie, for helping me get this wonderful photo. And I am envisioning the kind of joy, the kind of bravado, the kind of, wait, what are we doing here? Questions that he brought to every class when we had classrooms, that he brought to every class and every experience. He talks about his time here as bringing that kind of joy. But then Neil brought his joy and his special sauce to a radio station in Florence, and then to his beloved Hawaii in multiple roles, both in television and on for athletic administration, and doing the kind of things that he loved. Then he brought that special stuff to ESPN, and finally now for over a decade to SportsCenter, where he is the guy now that is authentic, that is trusted, that people love, that people want to have a beer with. To have that type of place where people believe you made it to the top because you earned it by who you are, what you know, and how you use your humanity. That's Neil Everett. The guy has heart. Here at the University of Oregon, whenever he comes into the SOJC, when we have a building and when we have classrooms, when he's here, he inspires. I'm thinking about a young vet once in a class that I was teaching, and Neil was talking, and this young man was lacking confidence, and he said, I don't know where I belong. And it brought tears to my eyes that Neil said to him, what you have done is the most important thing. Lead us. Talk about your experiences. The sports stuff is second to that. And that young man walked away with such confidence. Those things happen all the time. The young woman who wants advice, he gives it. Classes who go down to LA to talk with him, and he, with open arms, lets them be part of his experience. Neil is real. Neil is the type of person that, as we're applauding humanity and people who have grown because of their roots at the University of Oregon, he's on top of my list. We so appreciate the stuff you've done. We so appreciate the joy you bring, Neil. So congratulations to you, to Stephanie, to this dude here who has grown to be someone we're so proud of. And let's play you off with probably one of your finest performances. And here we are. Thanks, Neil, for everything you've done and the joy you've brought to us.
I think he just must have come out of the womb interested in sports and writing because he just ate that up.
Neil's a great writer. He comes at stories from angles that you might not anticipate, but when you hear the story, when you hear the angle that he presents the story from, you always learn something. It's something interesting or it's something clever, but it's usually something that would have never occurred to me.
He's ended up where he is because he's been so open to the spirit of writing, telling stories to connect people to subjects, to athletes, to each other, and really to themselves.
Relentless competence, and Neil has been that, right? Just a pro, a professional who shows up, does the job well, doesn't ever misstep.
SportsCenter is one of the longest running franchises among news programs, and Neil has carved out his own niche within that franchise. There's never been anybody like him, and I don't think there will be anybody else like him to come.
Neil's ability to create a dazzling, entertaining show from nothing is something that those of us who've had the privilege of knowing and now working with him have come to expect from this true pillar and towering giant, not just of industry, but of life itself.
He's just such a warm individual. He makes you kind of giggle just being around him. Like there's always something silly going to go on. He's always interested in what's going on with you and your family. Like there's a sincerity, and he's just a very genuine person. So whether that's in a friend or a colleague or somebody who's a colleague and a friend, that's a pretty good trait. You know, everybody can be nice to somebody if it's going to help you, or you put on a little show and song and dance, you know, in front of the right people, and that elevates you somehow. But he'll do it, you know, both when no one's looking and when there's, you know, no benefit to him.
I love the guy. He made my time at ESPN better. He's enriched my professional life, but much more so my personal life.
I love that has as much admiration as he does for the talent that he is, and for as good of a sportscaster that he is, and how great of a personality he is for being an ambassador of ESPN and the University of Oregon and the state of Hawaii. But it's him as a person that I take so much pride when people see that, when people see how special of a man he is, because he's the most special man that I've ever come across.
He knows I love him. He knows he's my brother. He knows all of that. But I want to say it out loud for him and all the people that are honoring him tonight. And I would want all you folks at Oregon to know that you have a treasure in Neil, and that you should treat him as such, because he's not rare. He's unique.
It began with his inner voice, a typewriter, and a Gallup Award for Superior High School Journalism, and culminates with this HOA induction. As sports editor of the Lewis and Clark Journal, Neil's devotion to the story and creative prose were in full display at only 16 years of age. I just opened an old, faded journal newspaper from 1978 and read his column on the football team's heartbreaking semifinal loss in the state championship. He wrote, "Remember, the word choke was invented by some guy who never made it as far as Seattle for the playoffs." Well, Neil, the phrase excellence in journalism might have been reinvented by some guy who made it as far as LA and who has an outer voice that could make any baritone jealous. I wish to congratulate my dear friend Neil on receiving the University of Oregon School of Journalism and Communication Hall of Achievement Award.
This is great, and I want to thank those who spoke on my behalf. The entirety of Bill Walton's comments will later be released on DVD. It's a 2-set DVD. Congrats to all those being honored. It's my honor to be inducted into this Hall of Honor. I am really blessed. I came to the University of Oregon in the early 1980s after being at Willamette for 2 full years. I was majoring in fraternity at Willamette, and that's not a good major. So I came to Eugene and I majored in journalism. I minored in frat. So a shout out to my beta brothers. Like Animal House, like Flounder, I was a legacy, so to speak. My grandpa Neil was duck number 1. My dad, his name was Neil. He was a duck. My mom was a duck. Shout out to Kappa Kappa Gamma. My little sister ended up being a duck, so I had to be a duck. Now, for anyone who's confused about my name, Everett is my middle name. My professional name, Neil Everett Morfitt, is my full name. I decided to use Everett because whenever I was in trouble, my mom would chase after me with a Neil Everett. So I chose to go with it in hopes that my mom can hear me, because early in my run here in Eugene, my mom died. She was my anchor, and for someone already a bit adrift, that was a huge loss. She was a high school teacher. She was a beautiful writer, and I can only hope, if there's an afterlife, that it has Zoom. I ended up dropping out of school and in and out of school, and I eventually got to the end. I got the journalism degree. I remember 20 to 30 years later finding my transcripts. I knew I'd taken every J-school class they'd let me because I was playing catch-up, having transferred. What I didn't remember, or didn't want to remember, was what an awful student I was. I mean, I should be going into the Hall of Shame. But something stuck, and I don't mean that smell from the basement printing press. Wait, that did stick too. But what also stuck was a professional framework in which to conduct my professional life. I felt smarter having went to the University of Oregon. I felt more confident with the journalism school degree. I had done nothing to stand out, nothing to be remembered, but something stuck. So my first stop was Florence, Oregon, to work for that city's first radio station. It's now KCST. It was KGBU back then, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It actually was God Bless You. $600 a month. Fat city. I bartended at night. News, then booze. I should have trademarked that. About a year into that, the folks at KUGN here in Eugene reached out to me. I'd been an intern during my school days, and there was an opening at a radio station in Maui that they had a relationship with, and something had stuck with them about me. So aloha meant goodbye, Florence. But now I'm in Maui, and I'm broke, and I'm sleeping on a friend's floor, and I'm laying wallpaper during the day, and I'm doing radio at night, late night. You know why I was on so late? Because I was awful, okay? I couldn't pronounce Hawaiian. They use a lot of vowels. So I'm scanning the classified ads, and I find a job for sports information director at a place called Hawaii Pacific College. Hawaii Pacific College was on another island, but I managed to get myself to that island from Maui over to Oahu. And so they had me do a writing assignment. I busted out my reporter's notebook, and I got that job, and that's thanks in large part to the skills that had stuck from the University of Oregon. That job paid 20 grand, so now I was in fatter city, but I needed a part-time job to live. So I wrote the 3 television stations, because there were only 3 back then. I sent them my University of Oregon resume with my very raw tape, and eventually one of the news directors got tired of me calling. He told me to come on down, we'll find something for you to do. So what I'd do is I'd work the college gig during the day, and when we didn't have games at night, I'd go to the TV and write news copy. So that was like 60, 70 hours a week. But the work ethic my parents had set and the skill set I had from the University of Oregon, they stuck. And yet you have to love local TV because at some point, and this is a true story, there was a scheduling snafu and they realized they had no sports anchor for the coming weekend. News director says, "Hey, Neil, don't you work a sports job during the day?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm an SID." The news director says, "Great, you're doing the sports this weekend." And that's where it started. I mean, I was green as grass. I was bedecked in lays. I looked like Doogie Howser, but I had what it took because what had stuck from going to school here. So 15 years later, I was still working both jobs when I got a call from some guy out of New York who says he wants to rep me. Now, I've not solicited this call, and I tell him I'm fine. I'm in Hawaii. I live the life I love, and I love the life I live. But as the conversation is coming to a close, I say to him, "Hey, get me an interview at ESPN and we can talk." And this was the golden ring that I'd never thought about reaching for. And for you young people, you determine where that ring is and what that ring is and how high you're willing to try and reach for it. Like I separated my shoulder reaching for that because I never dreamed about it. The agent says, "Send me a tape." And not that long afterwards, he calls me back and he says, "I got an interview at ESPN." So I said, "Well, I guess you're my agent." So I fly back to Connecticut, but I forget to pack much of that which had stuck with me from the University of Oregon. I didn't do my homework. I thought I was cool enough to kill the interview. This would be gravy. But my on-air audition, I was awful. I mispronounced names because sports at ESPN were supersized compared to what I was doing in Hawaii. And this is all on me, man. That was a tough lesson. But a year later, that agent calls and says, "Hey, ESPN wants to bring you back for another interview." I did my homework this time. I went back there with all my U of O J school stuff, and I stuck the interview. Eventually got the job. And 20 years later, I'm still standing here. So the best part of this story, aside from its coming to a close, is about 10 years into my ESPN run, I met this young lady named Stephanie, and she was a duck too. And she says, "Hey, what do you think about getting reacquainted with the University of Oregon? Like, let's go to the campus. Let's go to a football game. I'll show you my sorority. Let's go to a bookstore. Let's go to Tracktown. Let's go to Rennie's," okay? Well, despite having navigated my professional life with this J school skill set, I had no real relationship with you, the school. Plus, it was her idea, and I wanted to please her, so I agreed. And later, she agreed to marry me. So we came back, and we came back again and again. And during one of those early trips, and it may have been the first one, I met Deb Morrison. And she asked me to speak to a class. And I met Sarah Mason. She asked me if I'd be interested in donating to help redecorate Allen Hall. I met Tim Gleason. He was the dean. And then the J School needed some help, and I was happy to help. And then I met Johi, who followed Sarah, and Lauren followed her. And Dean Gleason became Dean Juan Carlos. And Deb's still standing, and so is the J School. Stephanie and I became part of the U of O family again, and I'm blessed that so much of what I learned here stuck to put me where I am right now. Speaking to you and humbly accepting this honor. Go Ducks.
Congratulations, Neil. I'm so happy for you, and thank you, Deb. Now it is my pleasure to welcome Tim Gleason, journalism professor and director of the Hall of Achievement program.
Thank you for joining us for this virtual celebration of the 2020 inductees to the Hall of Achievement and the Eric Allen Award. I'm Tim Gleason, professor of journalism, coordinator of the Hall of Achievement and the Eric Allen Award, and former SOJC dean. It's a real honor for me to have the opportunity to introduce to you Hall of Achievement inductee Sandra Mcdonough. I only wish that we were able to do this in person, but we're going to have to live with Zoom. I'm not sure when I first met Sandy. Maybe at Autzen Stadium, maybe when she was the chair of the University of Oregon Alumni Association at a board meeting. Maybe it was in an event in Salem or Portland. But the meeting I remember best was a meeting in her office in Portland when we were looking at the vision, trying to imagine the vision of the University of Oregon School of Journalism and Communication in Portland, the vision that became what is now UO SOJC Portland in the White Stag building. We talked for a few minutes, caught up with each other, and then I said something along the lines of, "What do you think the school should be doing in Portland?" Sandy had an answer. She proceeded to give me a graduate seminar on Portland. the UO's current position in the city and how we could improve it and what we needed to do, and then some very good ideas about what the School of Journalism and Communication could bring to the Portland community and to the state of Oregon. And she ended that discussion with, as is always the case with Sandy, an offer to help in any way that she possibly could. You can read about Sandy's long career from her days at the Oregon Daily Emerald newsroom to the Oregonian to the Seattle Times, and then on to executive level positions with PG&E and City and Pacific Corp, to then leading the Portland Business Alliance and now Oregon Business and Industry. It's an impressive career of leadership in areas where it's not uncommon for her to be the only woman in the room. You'll learn more about Sandy in the video that you're about to see, and I'm going to leave you with one quote from a story from when she stepped down from the Portland Business Alliance that I think really kind of captures her spirit and philosophy. The spirit and philosophy that underlined her career and her contributions to the SOJC, to the University of Oregon, to the state of Oregon and beyond. She said at that time, "What I'm most proud of is that we built a really strong organization that is a partner to our public leaders and other organizations that we work with. And we've built a reputation for being collaborative and for being problem solvers. And that's exactly where we want to be." Well, has there ever been a time when we've needed collaborative, problem-solving leaders, people who want to work with the community and build community? That's what Sandy has done since her days in the Oregon Daily Emerald newsroom, and she continues to do it so today. So Sandy, let me offer you my heartfelt congratulations into your induction into the Hall of Achievement. And I ask you all now to turn your attention to the video where you will learn much more about the life of Sandra Mcdonough. Thank you.
Well, when I think of Sandy, Sandy is the boss of me. She's the boss of you. She's the boss of everybody. But that's a good thing because she's a benevolent boss. She's a wise boss. She's a caring boss. And she's a good-natured boss.
She's not flashy. She doesn't seek the limelight. She's a very humble person. She just wants to see progress, and she wants to see that there's a movement and that it results in something tangible and good for the community and for Oregonians. And that's what I really, really respect about her.
I think Sandy's impact is almost impossible to describe because she has done so much within the state of Oregon and just for the Portland community as a whole.
Sandy understands the chessboard of Oregon and Portland politics as well as anybody. She's always striving for progress to make Portland and Oregon a better place to be, a better place to live, a better place to work.
She's my most important mentor for the last 16 years. But the most important thing that she's done that I've noticed over the years is she's really reached back. She's looked around for other young women leaders that have a lot of potential, and she's taken them under their wing. She's pushed them into venues where they can demonstrate and grow as leaders. And it's just part of her, I think, desire to continue to remind people that there are remarkable women who are leaders and deserve to be at the table.
I know that she cares very deeply about equity, about making sure that we had more voices at the table that weren't there already. She has personally recommended me and a lot of my peers that would not be at certain tables had it not be for Sandy, making sure that we were included and that others were included in those spaces and places. And when we're included, then it changes the story and the dynamic and the impact. And a lot of that is Sandy's work, and a lot of that is behind the scenes Sandy's work.
Sandy really encouraged me to think outside the box and take initiative in my work, no matter what the project was, no matter how big or small, to take initiative and really think about the bigger picture regarding the entire project that I was working on.
I don't really know what the word is to describe, but it's immeasurable. Like, she's done so much, people won't even necessarily realize what she's done to help certain elements of our community thrive, but she's really had a hand. She's kind of the person behind the curtain. You don't really realize necessarily everything she's doing to make a difference, but she is.
seen it demonstrated time and again with her that she uses her platform to really pull up that next generation behind her. I don't know that it's anything that she seeks recognition for or anything like that, but it's noticeable for those of us who've worked closely with her over the years.
Sandy, it's really good to see you. Congratulations on this wonderful award. Go Ducks. Go Sandy.
Good evening. I want to start by saying thank you to the School of Journalism and Communications for this incredible honor. Even more, thank you for launching a shy young woman from Southeast Portland into a lifetime of opportunity and an unexpected career. I decided I wanted to be a reporter when I was still in grade school. My sister Mary brought home a copy of her school newspaper, which I thought was very cool. I decided when I was in 4th grade or so that I would write for that newspaper someday, and then I would go to college and study journalism so that I could get a job at a real big city newspaper. And that's the path I followed, enabled by a lot of good luck and shepherded by the fantastic professors in Allen Hall and across the University of Oregon campus. Truth is, my shy personality was not what you'd expect to find in a hard-charging reporter. When I was a sophomore, I managed to turn in dozens of stories to the Daily Emerald without ever once entering the newsroom in the top corner of the EMU. They had a little basket outside the door where I would drop my completed pieces, typed on paper, and then skedaddle away before I actually had to talk to somebody. They blew my anonymity in the spring of 1974 when I was summoned to the editor's office and assigned to a team that was interviewing candidates for student government. That may have been the moment that launched my vocation. My entire career, whether it was in newspapers or communications or advocacy, has focused on the intersection of public policy and communications. The great professors at Allen Hall during my years, John Holting, Dean Ray, Ken Metzler, Roy Paul Nelson, and others, taught me the power of asking questions. And from them, I learned to look at all sides of an issue, there's rarely just two, and then lay them out in a way that tells the whole story and fairly shares all points of view. I loved my 10 years as a reporter at the Oregonian and the Seattle Times. I had fantastic opportunities, and I learned a lot from my editors, my colleagues, and my news sources. And I was a witness to the very beginning of the digital age as newspapers shifted from typewriters to computers. So why did I leave newspapering? I loved it. When I was at the Oregonian, I admired another reporter who staffed our DC bureau. When he told me he was leaving for another job, I was shocked. I said, why? Here's what he told me. I believe you stay at a job for as long as you're learning something, but when you've learned everything you can, it's time to move on. Well, he obviously knew what he was talking about. That reporter's name was Bill Keller, and he went on to be the editor of the New York Times. Bill's advice has been my career mantra. When I left the Seattle Times, I sought out former reporters who had interesting careers. I asked questions. And that launched me on a career in public policy development and strategic communications that I have loved for almost 40 years now. I have to say that ever since I got that first job as a reporter, I haven't really had career goals. Rather, I have looked for opportunities where I would learn something new. A guiding force behind every job I've had is what I learned in Allen Hall. Ask questions. Take time to understand different points of view. Be fair and balanced, and understand that the right answer is rarely simple, and it almost always involves compromise and concessions. I said I was lucky. I've had a wonderful family, great teachers, and fantastic friends. I've been able to work on projects that benefited my community, and I have had bosses who took a chance on me more than once, and who frankly put me in jobs that were unexpected for women of my era. For that, I am forever grateful. Many people have helped me along the way, including the men and women who contributed to the scholarship funds that enabled me to go to college in the first place. To all of you who contribute to the University of Oregon Foundation, thank you. You're enabling young people like I was all those years ago to get a great education, and that will launch great lives. I've remained a reporter at heart. I still ask questions, and whenever I'm in Eugene, I walk past Allen Hall. It's a place of great memories. To the School of Journalism and Communications, thank you for launching me on my career path and for continuing to launch the communicators of tomorrow. And again, thank you for this great honor.
Congratulations, Sandy, and thank you, Tim. Next, I would like to introduce Jane Wildman. Since I met Jane 2 years ago, she was so enthusiastic about reconnecting with the school, especially with faculty and students. Jane graduated in 1983 with a journalism degree and credits the SOJC and especially late advertising professor Bill Winner for her professional accomplishments and success. She became a member of our Journalism Advancement Council in 2018. Jane became a board of directors member at Combe in January 2018 after starting as president in June 2014. Combe creates and cultivates overachieving brands that meet the unmet needs of consumers and push cultural and innovation boundaries to deliver solutions and satisfaction for consumers around the world. As a consultant, she worked with manufacturers and leading global retailers. At Procter & Gamble, she achieved exceptional results over 25 years by building market share, volume, and profit. She established business environments with lean resources as a VP, General Manager, and Chief Marketing Officer of Baby Care, as well as brand franchise leader for P&G's largest brand in over 90 countries, including brand equity, design, personnel, agency, management, global digital marketing, and media testing. Jane also volunteers at Claremont McKenna College as the vice chair of the nominating committee for the Parent Network Board. In addition, Jane is a board member of Omni Bioceutical Innovations, an advisory board member of G100, Women's Leadership Accelerator, and SSA and Company Digital Practice Advisory Board. Finally, I would like to highlight Jane's passion for diversity, equity, and inclusion in the industry. She is an advisory board member of the Alliance for Inclusive and Multicultural Marketing, a branch of the Association of National Advertisers. Jane is also actively engaged with the school and our faculty and students. Thank you, Jane, for your dedication to the future of our programs, and congratulations for your induction into our Hall of Achievement.
Oh, Jane is so many things. She's an amazing leader.
Innovative.
Curious. Insightful.
Enthusiastic.
Caring. Strategic.
Creative.
She's incredibly inspiring. Energetic.
Problem solver.
She's not only smart, she's brilliant.
Nothing is impossible. And I'm gonna make it happen. That's Jane.
She really believes, in what we're doing with regards to making social impact. She really has a desire to make a difference in this world in a very meaningful way, and then brings to the table her wealth of experiences. And it's just, so much fun and incredible to work with. And I think what I also really appreciate about Jane is she has an incredible amount of empathy and understanding, and working with her, it feels like working with a good friend almost.
She's just such a kind and caring human being who really is always available to support and help and grow people.
I appreciate most about Jane is her ability to not consider anything impossible. She's always thinking about what we could do and is just full of ideas and full of different ways of coming at it. So, being with Jane for just a few minutes, you're brainstorming a whole bunch of different ways to think about things. And I really appreciate that, because with Jane, nothing's impossible and everything is possible.
She essentially has this proven track record of turning around businesses, driving growth for huge global brands, and being willing to say, let's try something new, let's forge down this new path, but not without the insights, not without the research, not without the due diligence.
When she was working specifically at Pampers, she realized that the growth in the population was coming from multicultural segments. And if she was going to sell diapers, she had to start speaking to the people who were having the babies. The truth of the matter is that a lot of other companies and a lot of other marketers weren't doing that. It takes a very strong and bold marketer to say, you know what, I believe in this, and I believe this is where the growth is. And she did that before anybody else was really doing it, was really committed to it.
She's all in all the time. She was always, how do we make this better? How do we continue to get stronger as a team, as a company, as a brand, whatever we were working on? She takes absolutely every day, every meeting, every situation so seriously, and really pushes the people around her to be better. And I think that the energy and the creativity that's required to be like that is amazing. And she, to me, is like best in class when it comes to that.
She's one of those people that you can count on, not only to be able to inspire you to affect change at a higher level, but she's also willing to get her hands dirty and make sure that we get it right throughout the process. And to be able to see a woman who's used her power in such incredible ways inspires me as an executive to do the same.
She's just so warm in her personality and caring, and I really, truly look up to her as a female founder and CEO. I'm always looking for other women who can be role models, and Jane is certainly one of those women that stand out for me.
I just want to say congratulations, Jane, a very well-deserved award. I am so ecstatic that you are getting this recognition, and honored to be a part of this tribute to you.
Good evening. I hope this finds you safe and healthy. I'm sorry we can't be together in person, and send my support to all of you, and in particular to those of you impacted by COVID-19. I want to thank the Hall of Achievement Selection Committee and congratulate my fellow inductees, past and present. I am humbled and honored. I want to thank the University of Oregon School of Journalism and Communication, or as we say, the SOJC, for an incredible education. This education included 3 important elements that I leveraged today. First, a strong education in journalism and communication. Second, a strong education beyond journalism and communication. And third, a lifetime community. Growing up just outside of Eugene, I had a passion for writing. At Willamette High School, I was co-editor of our award-winning paper. We tackled tough topics, including a major arson fire during school hours. As I watched female reporters on television, my goal was to become a journalist, and Oregon was a natural fit. At the SOJC, I learned both in and out of the classroom. As an intern at KVAL, I was on track for a career in journalism. That was until I took a class with Professor Winter that led to a new passion, advertising. When Procter & Gamble arrived at Oregon for interviews, Professor Winter not only helped me prepare, he provided sage advice. He told me that building brands could make a difference. My 25 years at Procter & Gamble spanned multiple brands, an overseas stint, and many careers within a career. As I worked on iconic brands, Jif Peanut Butter, Olay, Head & Shoulders, and more, I leveraged my SOJC foundation. These skills were vital when I became Global Vice President and leader of marketing for Pampers, P&G's biggest brand. The business was in major decline. While we had a superior product, we had lost relevance and trust. After several failed attempts, we tried a different approach, to link our superior benefit of dryness to a greater purpose, baby development. It worked. We also evolved our media to reach parents where and when they wanted information online. Our email program reached a mom in the UK, explaining the difference between Braxton Hicks contractions and the real thing. That mom wrote us that our email may have saved her baby. We embraced digital mavens, in this case, mom bloggers, to discuss our products and our social mission. The Pampers UNICEF partnership to eradicate maternal and neonatal tetanus in Africa. Without sterile conditions, tetanus can be transmitted during childbirth. With the Pampers program, we donated millions of life-saving tetanus vaccines. As we doubled the business from $4 to $8 billion in over 100 countries, we help babies sleep, play, and develop better. Professor Winter was right. Successfully building brands can make a difference. When one of our children faced a health issue, I left P&G to focus on raising our two sons, Jack and Patrick, with my incredible husband, John. Between doctor's appointments, I once again leveraged my SOJC skills as I consulted on brand strategy and helped friends with their books, including the book Grow on Purpose-Driven Brands. When my son recovered, I became president and a board member of Combe Incorporated, a family-owned consumer products company. My Oregon education was again put to use, and not just my SOJC skills. I leveraged my background in economics, science, and psychology to work with bankers, scientists, and marketers. We returned Combe to growth and transitioned the company to the third generation of family leadership and their first female co-CEO. Today, I consult with companies on strategy, brand positioning, digital transformation, and diversity, and I serve as an advisor to 2 female founder companies. I continue to draw from my SOJC education. You see, at Oregon, I learned more than journalism and communication. I learned the power of independent thinking and intellectual curiosity. I continue to learn as I serve on the SOJC Advancement Council from my distinguished council peers, from the amazing faculty, staff, and dean, Juan Carlos, and most important, from the remarkable students. As I serve on the board of the Association of National Advertisers Alliance for Inclusive and Multicultural Marketing to foster inclusion in the advertising industry, I recall watching the female journalists growing up. There is a saying that if you can see that role model, you may become that role model. Our SOJC students will serve as the role models of tomorrow. Trust me, I've met many of them. The SOJC is even more important today. While you learn your craft, you gain a first-rate education. Finally, you gain a lifelong community. Growing up in a family with limited means, my mother stressed the value of an education. She frequently said that no one can take away your values, your faith, or your education. Mom, you were right. I am privileged to have an SOJC education, and I am humbled by this honor. I look forward to seeing all of you in person on the other side of this. In the meantime, my sincere and humble thanks. Stay well, and go Ducks.
Congratulations, Jane. Next, I would like to welcome James N. Wallace, Chair of Journalism, and Professor Peter Loffer to speak about Tom Wheeler.
I am so pleased to talk about my friend and colleague, Tom Wheeler, who introduced me really to this university when I first came up here, and that's when I learned about his extraordinary love for the university, for teaching, but most of all, primarily for his students. And it's something I tried to emulate in my work here at the University of Oregon. One of the things, there are all kinds of lessons I learned, and we all learned from Tom Wheeler, but one of the things that I liked the best about his points to ponder regarding teaching was deadlines. And I stole for my syllabi a line from his, which said something to the effect of, I'll be as willing to forgive missed deadlines as would be an editor. And that sums it up in a professional school. Groundbreaking, his books on guitar and photo manipulation, such an important book and written so early in our current era of so much manipulation. He and I used to spend long phone calls and times over coffee seeing who could show off the most egregious student grammatical error, an example of something that Tom so gave to the school, that very important understanding that everything mattered and it made a difference if your grammar was whatever correct is and no good. But of all the things that are important to me about my experiences, relationships with Tom Wheeler, it's his friendship. Extraordinary friend. Tom Wheeler and the Hall of Achievement go together just perfectly.
He was so passionate, I guess, about everything. He was passionate and curious, and he would just take that passion and apply it to whatever was in front of him. You know, whether it was editing or writing or teaching or music, it was just that passion that was just kind of all-consuming with him.
He had a law degree, but he never practiced law, but he would easily, willingly, anytime, have a discussion about any philosophical, legal, ethical question out of just sheer love of looking at what's right and what's wrong in the world.
Tom had kind of a beautiful, childlike enthusiasm for things. He never lost kind of his sense of fascination and joy and glee in things, including the music.
Tom would casually mention his encounters with famous musicians like B.B. King or Keith Richards. And it would seem, you know, sometimes like a bit of name dropping, but then later we'd find out that these weren't just encounters, but these were real relationships that Tom had with these people. He had true friendships with so many well-known celebrities, but he was always just so casual and humble about it. It would take a while to understand the depth of his relationships.
But when he was doing journalism, he was a ethical, thorough reporter. He believed in the standards of journalism, no matter what kind you're doing, and that showed in his work.
His values were to not settle. He wanted to be the very best that he could as a writer, as a musician, as an educator. And he poured his heart and soul into being just that.
As a mentor, perhaps that's where I would put him at the top in terms of the list of what made him extraordinary. He put his metaphorical arm around his students, and sometimes when it was necessary, his actual arm around his students. Nothing stopped when the bell rang. He was there for his students.
He loved to see his students succeed. If a student was struggling and thought they were going to fail, he loved to see them pass and overcome whatever kind of challenge they were going through. He loved to see students he had pushed really hard go on to have great careers and find fulfillment. I think that was why he loved teaching so much, really, was he liked to see people just doing great.
He was one of those people, a rare person, who truly and honestly rejoices in other people's successes. His joy at that was pure and genuine. He didn't need to do that. He had plenty of success on his own, but he wanted other people to succeed as well.
His priorities were not about money, about possessions. It was about the things in life that can't be bought, that they just, through great luck and great fortune, they come our way.
He would want to be remembered as a really great dad and husband. His family was everything to him. He couldn't talk enough about them. So I think that he already knew who he was in terms of the music industry or something like that. To him, that wasn't news. That wasn't as much fun or as important as his family.
I think he'd be really happy to know just how much he's still living on in me, Joe, Dan, and my mom. Even though he's gone in his physical form, his teachings really live on, and especially just by being a professor for so long, he was able to really make an impact to a really broad set of people in a really positive way.
I guess I could say that so many students came away aspiring to be another Tom. And so many of them, really nailed it and are out there doing wonderful things because of Tom. And people know that. People know that. Yeah, he's a special person, for sure.
Good evening, everyone. My husband, Tom, was a person who lived his life with a lot of gratitude. One of the things he would say almost every day is, "How lucky are we?" I'm sure he would want me to tell you how lucky he felt to have had this opportunity to work at the School of Journalism and Communication for 27 years. It enriched his life in so many ways, and he was nowhere near wanting to retire from the work he loved so much. Another thing Tom said often was, family comes first. Dan, Matt, Joe, and I will always cherish the gifts he gave us of his kindness, his time, his commitment, generosity, skills, and knowledge. We can say, how lucky are we to have had him as a husband and father. On behalf of Tom, and along with Dan, Matt, and Joe, we would like to thank the Hall of Achievement Selection Committee and SOJC for this great honor. I'd also like to thank Peter Laufer for his kind words honoring Tom. This would have given Tom another wonderful opportunity to say, how lucky am I? Thank you.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you, Peter. Tom left a great legacy here at the SOJC, and his memory lives on in the many students, faculty, and staff whose lives he touched. I want to thank all of our alumni again for turning in to watch this year's virtual gala and for all you do for the SOJC. Fall term is well underway, and you can rest assured that together, the SOJC community will continue to uphold our pillars of ethics, innovation, and action. I hope you enjoyed this evening and were able to connect with your fellow alumni, your former and our new faculty, and the students who will carry the legacy of the SOJC into the future. Stay safe and healthy. Go Dogs!